But I'll say some stuff. I'm going to do it. So this show is really stressful for me. And Gabe, I'm not going to lie. I appreciate it much more after hearing your stuff. Because I did not like it, but I also like didn't get it. I don't think I understood. I was just like, there's no way I would live through this. Yeah. So like, I don't even want to think about what that would be like. But yeah, the most interesting piece of the show for me is that there wasn't a prize. You know, it's not like you win something. You just win tomorrow. Yeah. And that like, it is interesting that like humans in general are very like resilient, adaptable. That's why we live for so long. That's why we occupy every area of the planet and operate entirely differently based on whatever our climate requires us to. Like we somehow manage to survive for the most part, almost every area of this planet. Kinda. And that means we're very adaptable. Like as a species, we're able to we're not exclusive to one area. So the thing that was very hard for me, though, is that the scenario that Alice in Borderland proposes seems inherently different to me than a lot of the others that exist in terms of like, what would happen if society no more? And it's like, at the end of it, I was kind of just like, why would I want to even be there? But now after listening to your section, Game, I'm like, are we already there?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So why do you do it now?
Yeah.
And just keep doing it there.
It's like a inevitability that I never even kind of considered. It's just going to haunt me probably now. But surviving the Alice scenario requires an entirely different set of knowledge and adaptability skills. I would argue like they don't require skills at all. It's mostly luck. Absolutely. In that like you don't know what kind of game you're going into before you get there, and thus like can't really prepare. And some of the games even like you go in and only one person can live. So like you don't know that you're going in that game ahead of time. It reminds me of the marble game of Squid Games because like you think you team up thinking like, oh, we're both going to do it. And it's like, that's your best friend. And now they're dead because of that. And it's just like, and I also just have never been lucky. So I just think I would do bad. I would do very bad.
In my core.
And it's just like, while in some ways I agree it does even the playing field, it also encourages people to abandon like any semblance of hope and lean into cruelty in a lot of areas. Like I feel like a lot of the scenarios that I get setting up is like the Hearts games, you could have figured it out, but isn't it easier to just murder everybody? Yeah. It's really just wow. But humans, as I said, are extremely resilient and adaptable. And I find it hard to believe that find it hard to believe that anyone would like really want to survive this kind of scenario, I do believe that like instead of wanting to, people would just do because of like this baseline human instinct to survive. Like if we're in Alice in Borderland right now without sky lasers, arguably that's what I've been doing these past few years.
Yeah, just
doing and living before finding love specifically. Now I have like attachments and I'm like, that's lame.
Dang it.
Before I would have just like totally went out swinging. Now I'm like, oh, I have to think though now.
Yeah, and
I gotta like take vitamins. Why? I wasn't doing that before. Now I want to be here. It's lame, but it's not. It's good. It's good. Probably.
It's good. Everyone should want to be here.
Yeah. But it is interesting that it creates this understanding. Like people don't want to win, but the dread alone of what would be necessary to survive. I feel like in the before time where I didn't think current life was Alice in Borderlands, I would definitely be in the I'm not going to participate and just die regular, please category. Sky laser for me. I know, but like sky laser while I eat ramen happily in a building that isn't mine, I guess. I don't know. But I think the most devastating piece of this is that like because of the luck factor, it is interesting like the ways in which where if you go in with people you like, there's a new devastation you'll find that'll make it harder for you to keep going. Arguably, where if you were like the two characters that kind of figured that out beforehand, it kind of hinder you in a way. The people who figured it out beforehand have like more skills to kind of deal with this because they've already figured out a way to exist outside of what their pre-life was. For this sake of this episode, let's pretend we want to survive. What would you need in your wheelhouse to do that? In my opinion, it's just an acceptance that trying in any real capacity is futile. And the only real thing that you can do is go to the beach, drink, party until you ultimately die. And I feel like, yeah, it's a more glamorous way to go out than, I agree with Gabe, and that like hedonism is a more glamorous way to go out than just sitting in a building and waiting for sky lasers. But the most devastating piece for me is that like who you get to be at the end of that. I feel like Arisu and the other characters like Usagi and
Kuina and Chisia.
Yeah. Arguably those two did some stuff.
Yeah.
They kind of leaned into the chaos. Where I would argue Arisu and Usagi kind of like still kind of maintain their goodness. But also everyone's just trying to survive. But I think something that's generally interesting about these kinds of scenarios and where society collapses is the way that the brain organizes itself as a way to adapt to this environment. It is really fascinating. Our trauma responses are very unique to each of us. And in many ways they can help you, in many ways they can harm you. It all kind of ties back to everyone's favorite what if scenario is, what would you do if society collapses? What if zombies though? You know, it always kind of links up with whether people are doing well in the society that already exists. And I think the way you kind of set it up, Gabe, with the neat scenario, that there are a lot of people who already weren't fitting in. And that's something I think as millennials we relate to a lot. In America even too, is that like a lot of us already don't conform to what society has decided we were supposed to be doing because we don't have the ability to. Like we went to some of us went to college. College doesn't equal house now. We have no belongings that tie us to any sort of. The only thing that ties us to needing to exist in a society is that the government has made it so that we do not know how to survive without it, specifically in terms of finding food, shelter, and like everyone in the zombie scenarios, they got to build a base and like sustainable ways of living somehow. And I feel like in our society, we have not been given those skills. Nope. But because of the fact that we are millennials and we have already accepted the ways in which that the government will let us down, we will probably do better in these scenarios than many generations before us who had something to lose. I would say like Gen Z and us, like we have a lot less to lose majority wise than the generations before us. And we've already accepted the ineptitude of the government. So we've already started to like look into that kind of stuff. Like we've looked into sustainable living. We've looked into driving instead of having a house, like just traveling the country. We've looked into planting gardens.
Yeah, we've learned to live without and to not rely on them.
Exactly. Like we've operated in this new version of ourselves, understanding that like the government ain't it and they're not going to help us, or we're not going to get a slice of pie. We're not going to get the things that were promised to us, or even if they weren't promised, we're not going to get anything that great.
Yeah.
Everyone under 40 has kind of accepted nothing good is ever happening again. Except for like what we make in the day. You know what I mean? Like, and while I think that doesn't lean to like everyone just embracing hedonism forever, I think it does lean to like people being more authentically here at the moment, as well as just like prepare. Like we would probably survive zombies in most instances because we already operate outside of what society offers. So like our connection to this post-apocalyptic world is already there.
Yeah.
So I just find that really interesting. And I think it's like a collective understanding with many people of our generation or just like and on that we've had to fend for ourselves and will continue to do so no matter what way society offers. Preferably not sky lasers though. I'd rather not sky lasers. I think of all the scenarios in which the apocalypse would happen, I don't want zombies either.
Yeah.
Like, but sky lasers seems like, why not hedonism then? Yeah, like, there's no other really, you just kind of got to do. We're like, the other scenarios do present some semblance of hope that I think Alice Borderlands
because the zombies are going to die off.
Yeah.
Like if you read World War Z, like they're going to die off.
Yeah. But I do think it's like kind of cool. Like it's messed up, but kind of cool that we've been given this reality in which that the collapse of society isn't going to destroy most of us emotionally. Like we aren't so attached to what society was before in our current forms that act in of itself would make us break. And I feel like a lot of the older generations, unfortunately, like probably would, because they're still reaping the benefits of what their version of society has been.
I would argue that many of us are actively trying to sabotage society now.
Yeah.
So
like we're all kind of needs, and that there's nothing so wrong with that. If anything, that kind of Alice in Borderland kind of showcases the ways in which that existing within that realm already sets you up to kind of do well when society inevitably will collapse. And many people will thrive in that scenario in a way that I think that would be different than zombies specifically, because it wouldn't lean into necessarily cruelty. It would just lean into what we have with Kuina and Usagi, and that like they've already learned how to exist outside of that, and that will allow them to continue living no matter what kind of happens, because their tomorrow is within themselves unless their attachments to all these things. And that's what everyone says enlightenment's based off of. So
yeah, I think it's that we place value on different things than the generations before us, and those things aren't like tangible in the same way. So if we were put into a post-apocalyptic world, we still have those things that we value. And I think what's different about like versus like a zombie apocalypse situation is like usually in those narratives we see like people become evil and are like preying on each other.
Yeah.
Whereas like although that was like happening a bit in the beach and there was like power trouble, really people were just like, we want to, like, it was like the first purge, like people were like, we want to party, we want to hang out with each other and enjoy what we have, because all we know is we have today. Like we are 100% not guaranteed tomorrow, and we have to keep going out and risking our lives. We might as well enjoy the little bit of lives that we have while we have it, and together. And everyone kind of was letting each other just live. Like they weren't great. Like there's, some shady things going on for sure. But I think the core was like, you keep people in line by just letting them be happy.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally true. And I think it's interesting. I don't know if I would have gone to the beach, if I'm being real. I feel like I'd be like, can I find one person I don't hate? And then I'll hang out with them and we kind of just rock until we've just continue to do that, accepting that death is around the corner. I don't like people enough that I would want to go to a place where there's a lot of them all the time. So I would probably just be like still a loner. It'd still be outside of what even the new society. I'd be like, I'll still find my ways to enjoy myself. Maybe I also have drugs, but I'm just not at the beach right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting because it's like its own little mini microscope of society, or what is that called? A little ecosystem that's doing its own different oppressive thing. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I feel like we might live, but also why? But also like maybe.
But I mean, that's the question now, right? Is like, why? But I like that idea of like we would survive better, because like in the show there weren't many people who were much like, I would say Gen X was in there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there was any prior generation. Like there weren't old people in there.
No.
Like at all.
They all went out in the beginning, I guess.
Like, or they just like,
what were the old ones? The old ones are the ones pulling in the strings, because they're the only ones that still benefit from that society. So the meats or neats are the ones who aren't adhering to that society. Did I just figure out the whole thing? Because they're the ones, because there's no old people in the thing. Like there's arguably not a lot. So and everybody who's in there is kind of people who already existed, not like traditionally within society. So maybe this is their way to get rid of all those people.
I think it's a great piece to explore in a way that I feel like hasn't been explored. Just like the different ways we survive when society has collapse. Like we kind of see the same narratives of like people are awful and when their back's against the wall they're gonna hurt people they love, but I didn't like the characters didn't really do that. Like the ones that we were following, like they were not doing that. Like we didn't see the corruption of them, we just saw the perseverance of them. despite the fact that this is gloomy as all get out. It's like the worst, like, and it's the worst scenario out of like the rest of them because there is no out, like, or presumably no out. So it's like, if in a world where there is no out, you get better people versus like worlds where there is kind of an out there and there's worse people. It's like so interesting.
If there's a return, then it's different. Where like if there's not, then it's just like just be. We're cool.
And it's like, what happens? Like, who knows if this is just a simulation and if you die, you're back in the world now. Like, you don't know because we don't know how we got here. We don't know what
that would be a fun twist.
Right? For like, real, it's a Matrix, you know? I was expecting that. Honestly, I was like, when the horrible things happened in that one episode, I was like, wait, what? How does the show keep going? Oh, then it must be like we're gonna leave. But we didn't leave.
Yeah.
We're still just trying. I was like, this is awful. And like this, the reason I pitched this one was because it really broke me as like when I first watched it, because I was like, one, there's no way I survive. But it really felt so hopeless that I was like, why out of all of them, this is the one I don't want to. But then like when we were revisiting, like now, I was like, maybe it's the most beautiful of them. Maybe I get it in a way that I didn't know. So maybe watch it twice. Watch it with a friend. Watch it, listen to this episode. Watch it again. I don't know. Like, give it a shot.
It was good. It's good. I appreciate it more now after this than I did, I think, while I was currently watching it. So.
Oh, yay. That's good. I'm glad. And I hope other people feel that way. And if you do, make sure to leave us a comment and that you're subscribed to us. You can shoot us an email at theghouls@gmail.com to let us know what your thoughts are. If you have any recommendations, if there's manga out there that are about murder games we should read, or if there's a show.
Oh, there has to be more. I'm sure there's so many.
Yeah.
Everyone is miserable now, so they're making them now.
Like, and they've been miserable.
We need an out.
They have been miserable. That's why I'm just like, we are already anarchists. I don't understand. Like, put us in the apocalypse. We're like, okay.
Yeah, it's like very real. Like, I used to think I wouldn't survive, but now I'm pretty sure, like, I would have a hard time because I need medicine. But, like, other than that, like, I'm not going to be murdering people. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to just be like, all right, we live now. We're just doing this different. If anything, there's a lot less people I got to deal with. And that sounds nice.
And you know what the thing about this one is, like, versus like the zombies where like the outside was terrifying. It's not. Like, you can go to a pharmacy, break in and get the stuff you need.
Yeah. And Alice in Borderland's 100%. You just hope the pharmacy isn't a game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, they would tell you that there are games and stuff going on. But, like, you could, like, walk, like, you could get whatever you want. Because basic surviving was allowed. It was, like, that's why they have the
get food, go to the mall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you do all that stuff.
Reestablish society, but also now everyone goes and plays murder games sometimes. And honestly, in the middle of the pandemic, we're all playing a bit of a murder game by leaving the house. So... we leave outside, we talk to other people, we take public transit, you're playing a murder game. Yeah. The murderers by the pandemic. Yeah. So we're all doing it. Yeah, so that's murder games. We're not covering Battle Royale. Although I'm like, maybe one day.
Yeah.
It's just
what are
like
rules? There's no rules. Let's just do it.
Do whatever we want, dog. Yeah. Next month we'll have something really fun and nice for us. It'll be nice. It's totally different. So be prepared for something unique to the Ghouls. And then in the new year, we make it that far, we'll be back to our old games. Our old ways of mischief. Mayhem.
Yeah.
All right. Well, don't get married.
Let your kids.
Yeah. Who even wants to have kids in this economy?
This world.
You know?
Yeah, right. In this
who wants to bring more humans in
panorama.
This whole panorama? You want to bring a whole other
Nini press.
I don't need this. Well, bye. I hope we don't end up in a murder game together.
I don't want sky lasers. I just feel like that's excessive. Just let it regular.
Apocalypse. I will say this. This is like most murder games. I hope if I end up in one, that you're not there.
Yeah.
Like, it's the one place I'm like, I don't need my buds. Yeah. I don't need them. I don't need my friends.
I need someone who doesn't know my personality already so that there's expectations already there.
Yeah.
I need nothing holding me
friends back. That I don't have to care about. Really.
Why have friends? Yeah, they're just there.
Second.
You are all you, man.
Living in a moment. I could be somebody. Like, yeah, you could be somebody new.
You should see me when I go a place and no one knows who I am. I'm like, this is like a wonderful masking opportunity. I'm going to see who I am today. Let's go.
Let's find out. Who do you think I am? That's cool. Yeah. That sounds great. I could do it. I do well meeting new people. So.
Oh, I don't. But I can pretend.
Very good. I'm also a very interesting person in a short span of time. Like people, when they first meet me, are like, "Oh my god, you're so cool," and then when they like get to know me a little longer, they're like, "Oh, whoa, hold on."
That's hilarious.
That was
I have
you
the
back there?
opposite experience almost always. No one likes me right away. They're like, "Wow, she was awkward." She said all the wrong things, and I'm like, it gets better with time, maybe.
No, I'm like a siren.
Or it doesn't. I think there's like a middle period that's like, that's when the illusion kicks in.
Yeah.
You've been with me for 4 years, almost 5 years.
5 years. It's been a long time.
You still kind of like me.
Time. Yeah.
I still
very
like
much
you.
Like you. Yeah. Yeah, we passed the test. But yeah. I've always considered myself a siren, you know? Like I lure him in, cool song. But then you get up close and you're like, ah! Monster, she's drowning me. And I'm like, sorry, bud. That's how she is. So if people just had to interact with me in small doses, they would think I'm really cool. And then they're going to die. So it doesn't matter. You know, like they're not going to get to know. They don't get to see what happens. Okay. It's good. I love it.
I'm a fish, not a person. It's the first thing I say. And they're like, what? I don't want a fish friend.
You have to get out of here. And I was like, hey, that's cool.
I don't know.
And I was like,
it worked.
I'm a fish too.
Yeah, it worked out. We're both fish.
Ixnay on the fish day.
I don't know why I thought that was so funny, but it was. Oh my god.
All right. Well, bye everyone.
Bye.
Good luck in the murder games. That is just every day.
Yeah.
In 2020.
It's not sky lasers. It's just poverty and oppression. There's not food that's good for you.